made defenders dance, and then made entire nightclubs move to his rhythm. The smile that hypnotized Camp Nou, the elastico that broke ankles, headlines screaming 48-hour parties while stadiums chanted his name. He wasn't just a footballer, he was joy in human form. A man who could turn a Champions League night into carnival, and a carnival into his second home. The cameras couldn't look away, neither could his opponents. But here's the question that splits the football world in two. Was Ronaldinho the happiest genius the game had ever seen? Or the legend who partied his prime away? Because this story isn't just no-look passes, step-overs, and samba feints. It's neon lights, VIP rooms, and tabs that read like transfer fees. It's standing ovations at the Bernabeu, and stories of training missed after nights that never ended. From Porto Alegre's futsal courts to Barcelona's throne, then straight into a lifestyle only myths are made of. This is the rise, the glow, and the chaos of football's original party king, Ronaldinho. He was born in Porto Alegre, a skinny kid with a ball always at his feet. On concrete streets and tiny futsal courts, he learned to play with samba in his soul. Quick touches, elasticos, and a smile that made defenders freeze. By 13, his legend in Brazil's youth tournaments had already spread. At 17, PSG took the gamble. Paris got its first taste of the boy who could humiliate defenders with a grin, but France was only the warm-up. In 2003, Barcelona made the call. The club was in crisis. The Camp Nou needed a spark. Ronaldinho arrived, and with one dazzling debut goal against Sevilla, the smile started to change the mood of an entire club. 2 years later, he was unstoppable. He won the FIFA World Player of the Year, the Ballon d'Or, and in 2005, he destroyed Real Madrid at the Bernabeu so completely that even Madrid fans stood and applauded, receiving a standing ovation from rival fans, the ultimate sign of respect. A year after that, he led Barca to the Champions League final and lifted the trophy. From a futsal prodigy in Porto Alegre to the king of Europe, this was the rise of the happiest genius football had ever seen. Barcelona, the legend of Ronaldinho's nightlife began to spread as fast as his highlight reels. Early whispers told of mornings when he'd show up late to training, still grinning, still loose. Coach Frank Rijkaard often looked the other way. As long as Ronaldinho delivered on match day, the rules bent around him, and deliver he did. Stories from teammates say he could party all night in the clubs along Barcelona's Port Olympic, then step onto the pitch the next evening and dismantle Madrid as if nothing had happened. There were carnival trips back to Brazil, private jets, endless samba, nights that bled into mornings. There were celebrity nights out in Ibiza and Paris with Figo and Ronaldo, VIP tables, champagne bills that looked like a small club's transfer fees. For the fans, it added to the mystique and aura, the smiling genius who could dance at night and still dance past defenders the next day. For the club, it became a quiet worry. The spark that had revived Barca was starting to burn at both ends. The party king had arrived, and the myth was only growing. If the nights in Barcelona made Ronaldinho a legend, his spending turned him into a myth. In Porto Alegre, he built a sprawling mansion, complete with a private football pitch where neighborhood kids would gather just to watch. In Barcelona, his villa overlooked the city and the sea, the kind of place where a post-match barbecue could turn into a full-blown samba party by midnight. His garage looked like a superstar's toy box, a gold-trimmed Hummer H2, a bright yellow Lamborghini Gallardo, custom Bentleys that cost more than some teammates' annual salaries. And then came the parties. Carnival in Brazil, Ronaldinho didn't just attend, he rolled in on his own decorated float, waving to crowds like royalty. Birthday parties were booked like music festivals. Live bands, celebrity guest lists, hundreds of friends and fans invited. Endorsements were pouring in, Nike, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, EA Sports, and the money rolled out just as fast. For Ronaldinho, every paycheck seemed like a new excuse to make life feel like a never-ending carnival. The music didn't stop, it just slowed. The same legs that danced through defenses began to feel the after hours. Little pulls, tight hamstrings, mornings that arrived too soon. Nightlife and knocks started to add up, and for the first time, joy met gravity. Then Barcelona changed. Pep Guardiola walked in with a new gospel: discipline, pressing, perfection. Training went from folklore to law, and while Ronaldinho was the spark that revived the Camp Nou, a quiet revolution grew beside him. The torch was passing, even if no one wanted to admit it yet. Messi was taking the throne. The ovations softened. The magic came in flashes. Still, when the ball kissed his foot, the old electricity returned. No look passes, elasticos, a smile that made you believe again. But consistency is the currency of dynasties, and his balance sheet was running thin. Milan offered a second act. Under San Siro lights, there were nights he looked immortal. Slick touches, drifting free, feeding strikers with passes only he could see. But the rhythm wavered. Home pulled him back to Brazil. At Flamengo, stadiums shook just to see that smile, even as whispers returned about discipline and late arrivals. Then a final world tour in Mexico with Querétaro, free kicks like postcards from the past. Crowds chanting as if time could be persuaded. He wasn't finished, but the era had shifted. The happiest genius still flashed like lightning, only now the storms came farther apart. In the end, even Ronaldinho was learning what every legend learns. Eventually, everyone has their last dance. Ronaldinho's story leaves football divided. To some, he's the happiest genius the game has ever known. The player who brought joy to the pitch at a time when football was becoming stale. To others, he's the superstar who traded a decade of dominance for a few unforgettable years of magic and 1,000 unforgettable nights. Ask Neymar, Messi, and almost every player who their idol was, and they'll tell you Ronaldinho. Messi once said, "Ronaldinho welcomed me like a little brother. He made football fun," and Neymar grew up in Brazil, copying his elastico in the streets. Even Mbappé has called Ronaldinho one of the reasons he fell in love with the game. He wasn't the most disciplined. He didn't break longevity records or chase stats. But for a golden window, he changed football's mood. He made the Camp Nou roar, made rivals applaud, and made the world believe that genius could play with a smile. In the end, maybe that's his true legacy. Not the trophies or the numbers, but the feeling that football, at its best, can be a fun and free. In the end, the numbers fade, the parties go quiet, and what lingers is a feeling. Ronaldinho reminded the world that football isn't just a job or a machine, it's joy, shared by strangers who sing the same song. He played like the stadium were still his childhood streetlights, like every touch could make a child fall in love with the game for the first time. For a few golden years, he turned stadiums into carnivals and pressure into play, and even when the rhythm slowed, the smile never left. Maybe he didn't chase longevity, maybe the nights were louder than they should have been, but ask the generation he raised, Neymar, Messi, Vinicius, and they'll tell you genius can laugh, greatness can dance. And sometimes the brightest stars aren't the ones that burn the longest, but the ones that remind us why we look up at all. So what will you remember? Perfect discipline, or the feeling he gave you when the ball stuck to his foot and the world held its breath? This is the elite's vault, where legends are unlocked, secrets revealed, and fortunes exposed. Subscribe now, because the vault only opens for those inside.